Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting of Monday, June the 9th. I do wish to begin by acknowledging that this meeting is held on the unceded traditional lands of the Sooke Nation and Sianu Nations. As we begin tonight's meeting, I just wish to take a moment to recognize the Edward Milne Community School graduating class of 2025. This past Saturday, these remarkable students crossed the stage in a ceremony at UVic, marking a milestone not only in their academic journey, but in our community's story. From making school history on the basketball court and soccer fields to delivering a show-stopping performance of Catch Me If You Can to raising nearly $20,000 for the Sooke Food Bank, this class has shown to us what it means to lead with strength, compassion, and action. They've grown up through a time of rapid change and met every challenge with resilience. Their stories remind us of why the work we do here matters. Every decision made in this room helps to shape the future they will inherit. So to the EMCS grads, we are proud of you, we believe in you, and we are excited to see where you will go next. We wish you well. Okay, council, turning towards our agenda tonight, I look for your item 3, approval of the agenda to be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Beddoes and seconded by St. Pierre. All those in favor, please. Carried unanimously. Meeting minutes here from May 26th. Adoption by Councillor Bateman and seconded by St. Pierre. Questions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, and that's unanimous. Okay, so our next section is delegations, of which we have 2 tonight. Each presenter will have up to 5 minutes to present. And following that, should council wish to take any action, that would be a business writing notice of motion that we can consider towards the end of today's meeting. So on the first one, I would like to welcome Wildlife Society, a presentation by Molly Cameron. Thank you and welcome. And if you could please turn on the microphone, and when you start speaking, we will start timing.
Thank you for having me, Mayor and Council. I more so just wanted to present to show you all the work that Wildwise has done over the last year and to thank you for your continued support. So we're incredibly appreciative that you guys have funded us for so many years, and it's been instrumental in acquiring these educational materials that we distribute to the community in hopes that they will be able to better coexist with the animals that we share our district with. So ongoing initiatives that we have, we continue to put out our barren area signage, wildlife crossing signage. We do door-to-door education, and now we do report any non-compliance with the district bylaw office in hopes that they will be able to issue tickets if the issues are continuous. We also report these issues to the Conservation Officer Service. We do community and school presentations. We have a heavy presence at local markets. We do assist with marine mammal rescues. That is the only type of rescue that we typically do assist with. Any terrestrial animals typically goes to Wild Ark or the BC Conservation Officer Service. And then wildlife monitoring. So we do monitor predator activity in the community in hopes to provide education in response to that, as well as our purple martin boxes down at the Prestige. So this is just an example of our signage. We did acquire some new signage over the last year. We've purchased these large sandwich board signs in hopes to put them in high traffic areas where people are passing frequently. So want reminders to secure their attractants, reminders to keep your distance from harbor seal pups during pupping season, because we have experienced a lot of reports where people are kind of not respecting those distances, trying to get close to animals, pet them, things like that. And then molting elephant seals seem to become a reoccurring thing. So we have purchased a big sandwich board sign with the approval of DFO with that messaging in hopes that if elephant seals like Emerson decide to molt in really inconvenient places, that we have better signage to make people aware. Over the past year, we've done over 25 school or community presentations, including local schools. We presented at the CBVA and Marine Guide Association of Canada's symposium, so that attracted quite a large audience. And then we have many more presentations scheduled for this year. And then over the last year, we've attended 12 markets and community events with, again, many more scheduled this year. Those are a great opportunity to talk to the public and engage with them in questions that they may have. We did assist in November with a bear cub rescue. There was a sow that was hit by a vehicle crossing the road to an unsecured garbage bin, and she left behind 3 orphan cubs. Myself and our volunteers spent 2 months on the ground with the North Island Wildlife Recovery Center and the BC Conservation Officer Service. Unfortunately, we were not successful in getting those cubs to the rescue center. However, they were at an age where the wildlife vet for the province does believe that they would have been able to survive on their own. And sometimes animals make choices for us, and we can't unfortunately help that. But we did put every effort in there to try and acquire those cubs. Over the last year, we've been featured in 50 media articles for wildlife-related issues in the community and the surrounding communities. And then we did a really big overhaul of our website following a few incidents where there just wasn't kind of enough information we felt for the public. So we provided even more in-depth description of predator behavior, activity, things like that. And then also, I forgot to include this in here, but we did publish a book at the end of last year. It was about large carnivores on Vancouver Island and how to better coexist with them. We are going to make that a series. So we're going to do small animals. This year, we're going to do marine mammals and just kind of information about the animals themselves, and then best practices to coexist with them on the landscape. But over the last year, myself, I've done over 600 volunteer hours, averaging between 40 to 50 hours a month for Wildwise. I am being more diligent this year about keeping track of our volunteers' hours as well. So it paints a more accurate picture of all the work that we do in the community. And then our goals for the future, we would like to see a year with no bear deaths. I know that was something that I had mentioned last year. Unfortunately, we did have 6 deaths in Sooke, all related to human-wildlife conflicts regarding attractants. Are creating tourism brochures so that people that visit Sooke have some information about how to conduct themselves in the wild, if they're camping, how to, manage their attractants, things like that. People from all over often don't have that experience with the animals that we coexist with at all times. So just providing them with that information so that they can be respectful when they're here as well. Again, continuing our book series, enhanced wildlife monitoring and education, and then continuing our community relationships and working on mitigating conflicts kind of best we can in those problem areas like the salmon spawning streams with photographers and things like that. But thank you.
Thank you very much for being here tonight and for the work that you do. I know that 6 is a lot, but before your work started, it was over 30. So that's a significant improvement over the last while. So I just appreciate all the work you and the volunteer team continue to do.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You have a question?
Can I?
Short.
Okay, short. Well, I had a whole bunch of questions, but the one that interests me is you've put in 600 volunteer hours. So this is not a paid position for you, is it?
It is not.
So I note that I found in my records here that you had a proposal for a paid wildlife safety education position that would have been funded through municipalities and the school district.
Correct.
Did you make any progress with that?
I have had conversations with other councils and just, advise that it's not fair for just the District of Sooke to, pay that
Right.
position when we serve all these other municipalities and cities. There hasn't been a lot of traction on it. But given, other municipalities being interested in implementing bylaws for wildlife attractants, it's something that I'd love to readdress with everyone and perhaps maybe get everyone together to discuss something like that.
Okay, that's it.
Awesome.
I had more. Oh, I have one last. Okay. Okay, so the CRD is working on this model bylaw, and I believe you are the district's representative on that working group. Is that correct?
I've been contacted to be involved, but it's not moved very much in the last month and a half.
Because you did post that remarkable footage of the bear carrying away a garbage bag just today, I think, and it's could be needed here.
Yes.
Councillor Beddoes.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through your worship, through our guest, I just wanted to thank you for all the work you do. It's very much appreciated. I even have been talking to actually tourists because I'm up in the trail quite a bit. All the signage does help. People aren't afraid, and they're taking good care of their garbage and putting it in those wonderful containers. So I just wanted to thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you. That's great feedback.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
I just noticed this note here procedurally before we go to the second delegation that to reorder 2 agenda items. What am I missing here?
Thank you through the mayor to council, just because we do have invited guests for a presentation for item 9.3. If we can have a motion to reorder the agenda to move 9.3 to the beginning of section with 9, that would be helpful.
Okay, so that'll be to move, so council, since I missed that, a motion please to move 9.3, the BC Transit presentation to be the new 9.1. We'll just move it up. So that's moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Beddoes, all in favor. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so I'll move to our next delegation tonight, which is from Mr. Jim Mitchell, request wording change to Sooke use permit bylaw 224. Okay, Mr. Mitchell, you just need to turn on the microphone so we can all hear you. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Mitchell, 6631 Sooke Road. I've been working at establishing a permanent food court location in Sooke for over a year. We received an operating permit from Island Health saying that we had the best setup on the island. We then apply for a business license and pay the fee. No one visits the site to discuss our operations, but we received an email from Bylaw stating that we had to remove our wastewater system and transfer our waste to the RV park where it would be untreated to go into the sewer system. We didn't understand this as the system we installed was 5 times the size of grease traps that are required for restaurants in Sooke. We attempted to explain that all food operations now separate any grease and cooking oils and dispose of these separately. We tried to arrange a meeting with bylaw, and she refused to meet with us. We have been bullied, intimidated, and lied to by bylaw. I'm sure that you're aware that bullying is.
Excuse me,
offense.
if I may, we cannot have any direct comments towards staff conduct. Please keep your presentation on the bylaw provisions that you are requesting council to change.
Okay. Our plumber discussed our wastewater system with the Sooke building inspector. He was told that there was no one in Sooke who knows anything about the system and was told to install it. And if it was approved by Island Health, it would be approved by Sooke. Pictures were taken of the installation. With the delay in getting the business license, we decided to formally apply for a wastewater permit. We were told to submit the plans to the wastewater plant. They tell us that they have nothing to do with this and to submit to the Sooke engineer. He tells us over a month later that he won't look at anything until we apply for a building permit and a plumbing permit. No one tells us of this before. These plans are submitted, so we hire our own engineer to submit plans, certified the system. These are submitted to Sooke, where we later find out that they have been lost. We submit the plans again and again, hear nothing. A couple of months ago, we inquire on the status of our application and submit all of the documents again. We are eventually told that we must get approval from the wastewater plant, who again tells us it has nothing to do with this. It has taken a year to go full circle here. After numerous messages and complaints, the file for the business license goes to Jaden Riley, who arranged for a building inspector to visit the site. They used an inspector from Sydney who comes to Sooke on Saturdays. The inspector says that everything is good and he will issue his report right away and can't wait for us to open as he enjoys Cajun food. We hear nothing from Sooke, so start going to the office every week where we are told that they are waiting for reports, and this goes on for 4 months. They can't tell us what reports they are waiting on and who is preparing these. Sooke has been incorporated for 25 years, and there are no systems in place to monitor the progress of any applications. No one knows what is going on or who is doing what. At a meeting with staff on another matter, we are told, don't talk too loud as the mayor is in her office today, and we don't want her to hear what's going on. It just shows what the council is being kept in the dark on certain things going on in Sooke. We finally arranged a meeting on December 16th to find out what reports they are waiting on. The person who has been dealing with us for over 4 months now says, I have only been in Sooke for a year and I don't know what everyone does yet, so I'm not going to be any help at this meeting. So we get nothing out of the meeting. And they will contact us in January. We hear nothing in January, so we schedule meetings in February, which are all canceled because they have nothing to tell us. We then at the end of February, after 7 months of delays, we get an email from Chris Marshall who says that the problem is that Sooke doesn't have a building inspector that can inspect our project. He said that they use an inspector from Sydney that goes out on Saturdays. He doesn't know that this person has already been to our site 7 months previously. Here's where we stand right now. Sooke has caused a breakup of a marriage. Sooke has put a man in hospital for over a month, and it is likely that he will not be working again. Sooke has denied 15 people the opportunity to work in Sooke for over a year. I hired 2 cooks when I applied for the business license, figuring we'd be operating within a couple of weeks. I've been paying their living costs for over $5,000 a month for over a year in order to keep them available to work once we get the approvals. Cooks are hard to come by. Staff has required that we spend thousands of dollars on work that is not necessary. We recently had a meeting with the director of operations.
Mr. Mitchell, we're at time. I'm wondering, like,
Oh,
you're
sorry.
asking us to, I appreciate the background. Thank you. You're asking us to request the change. So can you maybe move to that point?
Get the
That was
point.
the headline,
Yeah.
so that's what we're here for.
Yeah, the fire department did an inspection of our units, and they classified us at the time that we are a takeout restaurant because we're not mobile. The food truck bylaw therefore does not apply to us. When I was seeing the wording on the bylaw, it appeared to me that the word directly was missed on it, because we're not directly going to the wastewater, from the wastewater system to the sewer system. We're not going directly to the sewer system. And we're not mobile, so I don't think we apply it. The bylaw should apply to us. That's basically it.
Okay, would you like to hand the materials you've read to maybe to our corporate officer? Or that might be helpful so that council may want to look at that in more later.
Sorry, I missed that.
You read us your presentation. Thank
Yeah.
you. You're
Yep.
welcome to hand it over to our corporate officer, who could then provide a copy of it to council. Just
Okay.
for, there may be some follow-up that they may have,
Okay,
and that may be useful in determining what council wishes to do.
okay, thank you. Who do I go to?
To our corporate officer, Ms. Bagnall. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, which is our public question and comment period. So I'll invite any members of the public here tonight who would like to speak on tonight's agenda. So that would be this agenda specifically. And please introduce yourself. We just need to know the municipality where you live and let us know which item you're speaking to, and you will have up to 2 minutes.
It's Ellen Lures, Casinos in Sooke. Okay. I just have a comment here in regard to, where did it go? BC Transit, Wadhams Way Transit Exchange. Now, what I understand is that Bill 44, if we have a transit exchange, that would then allow Bill 44 to, Bill 44 says if there's a transit exchange area, you can put up to 6 stories in that area. You're aware of that on Bill 44, right? So is council aware of that we put this in, then it could be 6 stories all along Wadhams Way? It could be. Perhaps even the folks that own the land where Sooke Family Resource Center, they may decide, well, maybe that's a good place to put some 6-story buildings on there. So I think we better be careful how we address this situation, because I think if we want to do this and we're going to have 6-story buildings or higher, we should be talking to the people in Sooke and see if that's what they really want. I think we need to know the whole story. It's not just a transit system. It also involves, and that's 6 stories and higher, but an extreme density. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lures. Any other speakers tonight?
Hi, Sean Burns, Sooke. So as a candidate running in this by-election, I noticed that on the agenda for today, we're discussing extension of sewer systems beyond the bridge. This is something I think is very critical and crucial to be done. I think it's something that should have been done years ago, from my understanding, because I think it's going to bridge communities that really, the overall area should be connected in that way. And I think it shows the provincial government and the federal government that the town is prepared to undertake major infrastructure changes with the acknowledgement that we're willing to do the hard work and do a lot of the legwork. In exchange, the province and potentially even to a certain extent the federal would take Sooke into a more interesting light. They're going to be listening to us. I think that there's also the aspect of, because of the parties involved, be it the Sooke Nation and whatnot, I think that there's a potential to involve more ministries than what's on the surface level. And I think that if by doing this and by doing one of these large projects, which also I think would create a fair amount of jobs within Sooke, be it labor or be it the development of areas around it after the sewers put into place, I do think that this would be a fantastic way to show the governments that we are serious about change, growth. We understand that it's a requirement at this point, but we'd like to do it on our own terms. And because of that, I do think that I can think of at least 6 or 7 ministries that weren't mentioned within the actual document that potentially could work with Sooke. And be that means different types of grants, be it networking relationships to kind of move things along. I just think that it's a major undertaking that should have been done a long time ago, and I'm very supportive of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm assuming you're speaking about a ministerial meeting potential request on an application for a grant that we did not receive the funding for. Okay, thank you. Any other speakers tonight?
Good evening. My name is Catherine Strongwind, and I'm a resident of Sooke and also a by-election candidate. I'd like to speak to 2 items today, one regarding item 9.3 now. I am strongly in support of the design and the recommendation to support BC Transit to proceed with a funding request for the project. And one suggestion in the long-term planning is to consider public washrooms for the drivers and those who may be waiting at the exchange on Wadhams Way. But I'd like to thank council and staff for your work in realizing this initiative. It's a great step towards sustainability and growth and supporting economic development in Sooke and the increased connectivity within the region. Related to that is item 12.1 regarding the proposal to reduce hours at the Sooke Public Library. I echo Paula Johansson's letter and concerns about access to this service, not only for the patrons, but for the workers and staff as well. We must continue to invest in publicly managed organizations to ensure essential services remain accessible and responsive to the needs of families and the communities like Sooke. Particularly as we're looking to expand the transit interchange on Wadhams Way, it is critical that the library remains accessible during evening hours when most other places are closed. I urge all of council to write to the VIRL board to oppose the changes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Other speakers this evening? I'm just going to go, I will remember you this time, Ms. Lures. I'm just going to call for any first-time speakers. Okay, welcome back, Ms. Lures.
Also on provincial
Sorry, you
government
just need
minutes.
to reintroduce yourself to the viewing.
Ellen Lewis, Sooke. On the provincial government ministry meetings, it says request for status of timeline on highway improvements. And wondering if that also includes something to that bridge. I mean, not even power washed. It looks really, it's disgusting when you come in. I mean, I just came back from Indiana and I mean, they keep things tidy there. And another thing, you can apply for a permit in the morning and have your permit in the afternoon, and it's $100. It's amazing. And that's both on both sides, Kentucky and Indiana. I talked to another fellow on the airplane who's also a builder. It's interesting. And also, oh gosh, so many things in here. Meeting with, oh, I got all these papers, provincial appointment book for UBCM convention. And it talks in there about agriculture. And it talks about a hub, a food hub. And I looked on their website and they don't say anything about supporting a food hub or how that is. So because the Sooke Region Foodchi has been looking at doing a food hub, just wondering if you could ask, what do they mean by that and what are they supporting and how are they supporting it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lures. Anyone else for a final call? This will be your only opportunity to comment on tonight's agenda. Okay, seeing none, we'll move along then, and I'll turn to the report of our Chief Administrative Officer. Ms. Gray is with her family celebrating her son's athletic achievements. Actually, that's on the consent agenda. So I don't know, I'll turn to Chief Kennedy if there's anything to share at this point.
No, in my conversations with Miss Gray, she didn't have anything really that she wanted me to highlight. And I think because it was in the consent, it was just to be received for information.
Okay, thank you, Chief. I'll give a shout out to our staff who are involved at the 25 year celebration. I understand close to 1,000 people showed up at Woodside Farm, and the visual scribe who was present has captured the event, and in that mural that sits in the back of the room for members here who may want to see it on the way out. Okay, thank you very much. I'll move on to our consent agenda, which is items 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4. Move receipt by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Beddoes. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. So we'll move on to our report section of item 9. Okay, so sorry, and next time turn on your microphone and say point of order because you're
Okay,
clearly in my
point of
blind spot.
order,
And then I'll say
8.3
yes,
correspondence.
and then I will acknowledge you.
Okay. I would
Now
like
you
to
can speak when I'm
thank you
finished
very much,
acknowledging you.
Mayor Tate.
Excellent.
Correspondence 21B, drop-off yard waste. 22C, new guidebook empowers rural BC communities. 23D, Uber rideshare expansion across British Columbia. So that'll be for the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, noted. Thank you. The rest will be received and filed. Okay, then moving on to item 9, and we've reordered this, so I'll invite Transit for 9.3.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to introduce, BC Transit and district staff have worked collaboratively through 2023 and 2024 to prepare a 90% functional design of the Wadhams Way Transit Exchange project. The purpose of the exchange project is to allow for BC Transit to increase its service levels in the district of Sooke area. BC Transit staff have indicated that there's an opportunity to pursue a funding request from the Victoria Regional Transit Commission and the province to fund the final design and project implementation. If funding is approved for this project, it is anticipated that the final design can be completed in 2026 and the project may be realized for construction in 2027 and 2028. Purpose of the report tonight is as BC Transit and district staff are requesting council consideration to support the project approval, including BC Transit proceeding with the funding request with the Victoria Regional Transit Commission in fall 2025. We have colleagues here from BC Transit, Mr. Button, a transit engineer, and Ms. Wren is a government relations manager for BC Transit, and they have a presentation they'd like to deliver to council this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Elise Wren. I'm a government relations manager for the Victoria Regional Transit System. Joining me is Levi Meganbeer, manager of service planning, and then Simon Button will also join us, our transit infrastructure engineer. So today we'll be presenting you the preferred concept for the Sooke Transit Hub for your approval. So what we're looking for is your alignment to advance the project planning and secure funding. We'll be talking about context, current initiatives, and the Sooke Transit Hub itself. So before we do that, just a quick overview, a reminder of how BC Transit operates from the governance perspective. So in Victoria, Transit's governed regionally by the Victoria Regional Transit Commission, 8 elected officials who set fares, routes, service levels, and priorities for the whole region. My role is to facilitate the commission and liaise with all 13 municipalities and to inform and work in partnership with them. From direction of the commission, BC Transit then turns these priorities into operating and capital plans for implementation. We work at the province to access funding. For the the costs of the commission share are offset by revenue from fare collection, advertising, property tax, and the Motor Fuel Tax Act. So in terms of the system, it's a fixed route system with 57 transit routes. We had about 25 million boardings in 23-24, and we have a range of service vehicles. For our custom Handy Dart, it's a door-to-door demand responsive system. It's operated by Transdev, which is a third-party operator, and supported by taxi programs. So our current initiatives, UMO is our electronic fare system. It was rolled out in the Victoria Regional District system in the summer of 2023 before expanding to the rest of the province in 24. UMO allows use of either your smartphone app or a reloadable card to tap when you ride the bus. Products like tickets or a monthly bus pass can be purchased online now, reducing the barriers of needing to get to a store as you needed to historically buy those in person. Coming up for UMO, the provincial government program BC Bus Pass is offered through the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. We'll have an integration to UMO coming in later in 2025. And then also exciting for us is open loop. So that means being able to tap your debit card or your credit card on UMO, the ability to do that when you board the bus, which will be especially convenient for our tourist population. Couple more updates. Our low carbon fleet program. It's an initiative aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions through replacement of diesel buses with electric and hybrid buses. The program aligns with the province of BC's Clean BC plan and supports local government climate action goals. And we're very excited. We've had 6 battery electric buses arrive in Victoria Transit Centre, with 4 more expected by October 2025. You won't see the buses on the road yet, as training is in progress. If you can imagine, driving an electric car is different than driving a regular car. So same with buses and maintaining them. But we are working on that.
Excellent. Thanks, Lise. So before diving into talking about the Wadhams Hub itself, I just want to provide a bit of background and context on the existing service for Sooke, some recent changes, as well as some upcoming changes that have implications for the future infrastructure project. So Sooke is served by 4 routes currently, 2 regional routes, Route 61 and 65, and then 2 local routes, Route 63 and 64, providing service regionally, but also locally here within Sooke. In terms of recent service improvements to the Sooke area, as of January 2022, we had a pretty significant expansion to service for the Route 64, which operates between Sooke and East Sooke historically, and since has now been extended through Spirit Bay Sianu First Nation through to Langford and Metchosin. So increased service levels, and then also creating a 1-seat ride for residents from Sun River through to Langford Exchange, and also serving our partners elsewhere within the region. In spring 2023, we launched the Route 95 West Shore Rapid Bus line. As part of that change, we were able to improve service on the Route 61 by about 40%. So we saw 40% more total trips. A large portion of those increased trips happened in off-peak periods. So we significantly improved service in middays, evenings, and weekends through that change. We have heard quite a bit of feedback about some of those changes, including the requirement to transfer now at the Langford Transit Exchange. We've made quite a few tweaks since then to improve connections and other changes there, and it's something we're continuing to monitor moving forward. In terms of some upcoming transit service changes, so we were directed by the Commission to explore some short-term cost-neutral opportunities for improving service to the Sooke area. Recognizing that expansion to the Sooke region wasn't really on the books for a couple of years. So at the Commission's request, we developed a number of service options to look to improve how service was distributed within the Sooke region to better align with recent development patterns. And we were able to take that out to public engagement this spring. So between April 22nd and May 4th, we had an online survey that got significant feedback. And then we also attended the Sooke Earth Day event. We were there in person. We spoke to about 50 to 60 people over the course of that day and got lots of great feedback from the public. So we had some options we were engaging on that could be implemented as soon as this upcoming January 2026. But we were also engaging on some service options that could be considered for expansion once the Wadhams Way Transit Hub is implemented and we have more exchange capacity within the region. So in terms of the January 2026 potential service changes, the primary change we looked at was an opportunity to realign one of the regional routes to increase service coverage within the Sooke area. Currently on the screen, you'll note there's a pink line and a gray line. Ooh, you might not be able to see that very well. Currently, both the Route 61 and 65 follow the exact same alignment through Sooke. So they operate into the core, they go up Otter Point, down Pyrite, down Grant, and then back via the West Coast Highway. So the proposal we had was to take the lower service route, the 65, and reroute that to serve the northeast section of Sooke, the Aranwood church area that has seen a huge amount of recent development and density and has very little to no service currently. No surprise, through the process, we saw a huge amount of support for the proposed change. We engaged on two specific options. One, that we just reroute the 65 and leave service levels the same between the 61 and the 65. We also engaged on an option where the 65 was rerouted and we reallocated 2 trips in the morning and 2 trips in the afternoon from the 61 to the 65 to slightly better balance service levels between the two. And we actually got a resounding level of support for that secondary option. So in terms of next steps on this one, we will be presenting these results to the commission for the mid-June meeting and looking for endorsement in terms of how to move forward, potentially with some changes to support the January 2026 service change. So some exciting news there. With respect to the future expansion for Sooke, one of the challenges we have right now within the Sooke region is the current transit layover is essentially at capacity. We have enough space for 2 buses to be laying over in the Sooke town center, kind of in front of the Village Foods area. There are certain times of the day where we even have a 3rd bus that's like trying to sneak in there, and we've got to do a little bit of jockeying. The next option that we're really looking to do is to significantly improve local service here in Sooke. We saw with the most recent 2022 CRD origin destination household travel survey, about 60% of all travel for Sooke residents is happening within the Sooke region. So we're really looking to help meet some of that demand. So as part of the engagement that we just conducted, we revisited some of these local service improvements that we originally developed through the Sooke Local Area Transit Plan a couple of years ago, with some minor adjustments to better reflect future road changes that the district's considering along Throop, et cetera. And we saw, once again, a very high level of support through the public engagement process for moving forward with those proposed service improvements. But once again, we really just need to make sure the infrastructure is in place to help support these service improvements. With that, I'll turn it over to Simon.
Thank you, Levi. As mentioned at the beginning, my name is Simon, and I work in the infrastructure planning team at BC Transit. So Levi did a great job of setting up kind of like the reason for this transit hub or transit exchange, and I'll explain a bit more about what's happened, where we're at right now, and what the next steps are to keep on moving it forward. So transit hubs or transit exchanges, just to kind of right off the bat, they're a great place for people to switch between bus routes. Sometimes they're places to switch between transit or travel modes, and they look a little bit different regardless of where you are. So if you're at a university or Sooke or downtown Victoria, each one kind of needs to fit into its own context. Here is just a bit of a process. I'll go over it. I'll explain, and then I'll go over it a bit more detail. Essentially, the presentation goes, and I'll touch back about the next steps afterwards. So in order to plan infrastructure, it usually starts in terms of some strategic planning process. So I'll go over that. We then worked with the Sooke staff to develop a concept. And we're at the stage right now where we have a decent idea about what the project is, and we need endorsement for everyone involved in order to move forward. So we're here tonight to ask for your approval of this design, so we can move forward to getting funding in place and keep on moving the project forward. These projects typically take a few years. We're a decent way into it. And how this project would work is that Sooke, as the road authority, would approve the design of the project. The funding for the project would come from the Transit Commission and from the province. So we need to get their approvals as well. So going back to around 2019, 2020, this location on Wadham's Way was identified for a transit exchange. So this figure here is from the Lot A planning report. So you see the dotted circle where the circular library is now present. And even back then, there were bus stops identified on Wadham's Way. And while we were doing our local area transit plan for Sooke, this was the location identified. And right around the same time, Sooke was developing the transportation master plan. There were multiple elements in there that supported this desire. I should note that while this is the location for the transit exchange, That doesn't mean we're definitely not taking service away from the town center. It's really extending the routes through the town center. And this is a place where routes end, where buses terminate, where bus drivers get a chance to use the restroom and a bit of a break, things like that, and riders can transfer routes. This is quite close to here, but just to make sure everyone's all together, this is the location of the proposed transit hub, and a few nearby amenities, such as the library as shown there. Kind of from a bird's eye view, this is generally what the design is. Attached to the agenda package was the more detailed engineering drawings. This is a kind of a more easier to understand graphic for everyone. So we'll just dive into the two sections just one at a time, just to give you a brief kind of explanation of what the design is. So I'll start off by just explaining the north side of the road. So what we're doing here is we're effectively widening the road along that block to create a few bus stops. So those locations in blue, that's where a terminating bus can park. If there are any passengers on board, they can get off, and the bus will be parked there for 10 minutes or however long it is, kind of before the next run starts. And there'll just be one simple pickup location with a shelter for passengers at the front. Both on this side and the other side, there are multi-use paths. We wanted to make sure that the boarding location for buses is separate from that. So there'll be a very clear area. This is where you can wait for a bus, and this is where if you want to walk or bike or scooter through the area, that's where you can go. As I mentioned earlier, we are transitioning towards an electric fleet. A lot of our charging will occur overnight at our operation centers. There's a chance in the future we may need to do some charging of buses at these exchanges, but we're too early to know that right now. But in this location, that could be a location that we come back in the future and look at. On the south side, it's kind of a similar pattern. So there's a location for kind of shown in pink there for any routes that are terminating. The bus passengers can get off, kind of very separate from the multi-use path. And then there'll be a few spaces you'll see in blue where buses can park when they're out of service. And then for any passengers going eastbound, there'll be one easy location to wait at the end to get on the bus. This just gives you a bit of photos just to kind of see on the ground where it looks like there would be construction. So here it's just kind of identified generally in pink where it would be. So there, for example, that multi-use path would be moved a little bit to make way for the bus stop. It's similar on the other side. We're generally working between the existing road and the multi-use path is where we're working. Okay. So from at this point, what we're looking to do with this project is to get your approval here tonight, supporting us moving forward with this project. If that goes well, our next step would be to bring this project to the Transit Commission in the fall, since they're one of the funding partners, to get their share of the project costs. And then our next step would be to create a business case for the project and ensure there's both the regional and the provincial money available for the project. And then at that point, we would have a better indication of what the exact timeline is, when we'll be able to construct, and we would do the rest of the kind of the finalizing of design, and there will probably be more like project communications and things like that. The Sooke staff has agreed to manage the delivery of the project, so kind of managing the final work by the consultant, as well as manage the contractor. We do find that's the best case scenario for us. We find that works a lot better for residents. It's their usual municipality that they're used to working with, and kind of can resolve any issues. That also allows us to move this forward quite a bit quicker, having a municipality on board to do that delivery process. Of course, any of those costs incurred by consultants, by contractors, would all be reimbursed by us. That is the end of our presentation. There was already a comment about provincial bills, Bill 44 and 47. So I thought perhaps I could just touch upon that now. So there are two provincial bills. So there's Bill 44 and 47. I believe it's 44 that's the one that is based on frequent transit routes. And the province established some service requirements. So a bus every 15 minutes, essentially throughout the day, both weekdays and weekends. And bus stops on that route, I guess, would require that kind of the higher level of density. So up to kind of 6 stories. And just for
Six
No,
six
just
unit.
for clarity, it's 4 to 6 units.
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
Bill 44 under the
Yeah.
small scale multi-unit housing.
Yeah.
My understanding is Bill 47 is rapid transit, so in
Yes.
proximity to Sky Train.
Hmm.
And on the island here, I think it's Nanaimo, Langford, Victoria, Saanich, and View Royal due to the rapid bus.
Yeah.
Of which does not come to Sooke. So in this case, it may be 4 to 6 small scale units, of which I believe is already in place here in the town center
Yeah.
on Townsend. So there's no
Yeah.
change to density unless we move in that direction through our
Yeah.
official community plan.
Yeah, and we have been speaking. So there's the one about the frequent transit routes, so that would apply along the entire routes. And there's very few in the region that are high enough frequency that impacts. And then there's Bill 47, which is about transit exchanges, and there are some in the region, places like the Landford Exchange or UVic. These are generally quite large exchanges. Just because something is even labeled as an exchange on a map does not trigger any kind of provincial zoning changes. We have plenty of existing exchanges in the region that don't have that. So, West Hills Exchange, Royal Bay Exchange, Saanich Tin, a lot of these things have similar size to what we're planning here. Doesn't have that. That might this is the end, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And further, those areas are determined by an order in council. So it cannot just be added, oh, we'll decide to do this in Sooke. There is quite a formal process that protects our community from that. So thank you. Anyway, Councillor St. Pierre, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm also following up on a question from the public, and that's with regards to washrooms. I understand that washrooms will be available, obviously, to drivers, but it's really a benefit to the people using the service if there's washrooms available. Is that a possibility at this point?
Through the chair, that is something that we could consider. I think that the things that would probably need to make that happen, but there would need to be space that you would allocate on the right of way for a washroom facility. And we'd also need commitment from Sooke to take over the operation and maintenance of the washroom. So it's one thing to build an asset, it's another one to keep it running every day.
No,
So it would be a joint partnership.
That's understood, but we've had recent letters, not just today, but from the public that indicated that one of the major issues at the Langford Exchange was just no washroom facilities for the public, which is not good. And we don't want to repeat those mistakes. The other question I had was with regards to, you were just talking about the express routes and transit hubs. Is there any indication that the province would be willing to pay for frequent service if the density was actually there? Or is it basically just taking away from larger urban centers like Victoria, Saanich, and so on and so forth that already have that density and already have the corridor designation? Because right now it seems like there's only a certain amount of money, and as soon as you actually ask for more service, someone else loses service. Is the province going to step up with money if we actually do the densification they want? Or are we just,
Just the transit service is funded by property taxes, the fare box, and a bit of fuel tax. The capital comes from the federal and provincial money, but the operations comes from those other sources. So it's always possible to increase service, but then you need to increase the gas tax. It took, I don't know, 5 years to have a cent increase. And then it's fares or property taxes.
well,
There is no operational funding provided by the province.
they're asking for density and they're asking for density along corridors. And I'm wondering if they're actually going to put more money into transit.
Into capital funding. So right now it's operational. So I think that's more of an advocacy to the province, but I'll leave it to Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can speak to it a little more. The province provides a small support for operational funding, but it's a portion. Most of it is covered by the local government. I would say that it really depends on the province, right? Every year we go through a process to solicit expansion requests from all of our local government partners. We package it all together and we present it to the province. And then the province chooses to approve it all, approve a portion of it. And then that determines sort of how much expansion we're able to accommodate on a year-over-year basis. I think within the regional context, we have limited resources to work with, whether we get expansion or not. And the higher existing ridership and higher density we're seeing in some areas increases the weighting that we put in terms of prioritizing investment to a certain area. So although I can't say that we can guarantee that that would be the case because it is an annual process and the province needs to approve it, as you see more density in Sooke, there's a higher, it'll rank more highly in the investment prioritization framework that we have. So hopefully that's helpful.
Councillor Pearson.
Yes, thank you for your presentation, and there's a lot of details. And through the chair, and in your design, I see some changes. Went up there today and kind of scoped it all out. Everything looks good, except for one thing. We have this big hole in the middle of Wadham's Way that extends from Anna Marie Road west, and I kind of don't understand that. I'm still on a, like, we had 3 lanes of traffic, and now we're proposing. I'm not sure, how did that come to be? Through you to, I think, to staff.
Through your worship to Councillor Pearson, the center island was already existing there through hatch lines, so that was just part of the frontage improvements for the Wadham's Farm development. This one had nothing to do with any aspects of this exchange.
Yeah, and again, the follow-up question is, so we had hash lines out there that people were able to park there. This was actual requirement of that development? Is that kind of what you're telling me?
Through the chair to Councillor Pearson, no, that the exact location of the island, there were hatch lines in place, so there wasn't parking that was accommodated on the side of the street. But with the improvements, or with the Wadham's Farm development, there's also the installation of the crosswalk that is on one end of that. So this is sort of redefining the island that was already existing there through hatch lines and bringing it to a raised island, more acts as a traffic calming measure and also a bit of a protection from pedestrians as well crossing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Because it became very apparent on Christmas parade, on our Santa parade, how tight things get there. It was beyond tight. There was concrete trucks and things coming through there, and I'm not sure. Anyways, so is that going to change, that big hole in the middle of the road?
The hole will get, through your worship, Councillor Pearson, the hole will get filled. The island's not complete, but the island will be in place.
Okay, thank you.
Anything related to our presentation from our guest today?
Yeah. So your design looks great. And everything that I went up there today and walked around, with the exception of that, I just didn't quite understand how that's going to fit in, right? So any comments about that hole in the ground?
To the chair, that it doesn't really affect our project. I think as Mr. Carter mentioned, I think it complements the project quite well. It makes that pedestrian crossing safer. Buses can still fit through, so we're happy with it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Beddoes.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Sort of a long time coming. We've been waiting for this for a while. It looks good. It looks like it will serve the Sooke well. I just want to echo Councillor St. Pierre, the possibility of a washroom. One advantage of that location is we do have the library, which has public washrooms, providing we can keep it open long enough for the buses when they come. But that would certainly be a stopgap. But I think we would like to see a permanent washroom there. Thank you.
As noted, there's some pieces to work on because our current Sooke River Road does not have washrooms either. Councillor Bateman.
Okay, so thank you for that presentation. I understand construction is contingent on $2 million in funding from the Victoria Regional Transit Commission and the province. Is that correct? That's 100% of the cost.
Correct.
Okay, good news. I was curious about the size of the bus shelters. Will they be equivalent to the town center bus shelter, or larger, or how do you size out a bus shelter for a community?
Yeah. Through the chair, they should be a similar size to what's currently there.
Okay.
Yeah. I think when we're thinking about the size of the shelter, it can vary depending on how many passengers we expect to be boarding in that location.
Yeah.
And then we also need to consider how much space is available. So in these locations, it was important for us to keep the transit waiting area separate from the most used path. So that does place some constraints on what size of shelter or other amenities we can provide.
Okay. I note on another subject, 80 diesel double deckers are in the works or on order. Can we count on getting a few of those onto Sooke 61 routes?
That's a great question. So through the chair, it's been an ongoing challenge. We had to retire a number of our double deckers early. And so we do have some expansion double deckers that are coming and some replacement double deckers that are coming over the course of the next 12 months. There is a lot of needs throughout the system. And so we can't promise at this point for sure that double deckers will be returning to Sooke, but we will be looking very carefully at all the routes we historically operated double deckers on and make sure we're going through a fair, equitable process and we're comparing apples to apples. There's a lot of routes within the core that we are still passing people up with the ridership increases coming out of COVID. So it's on the list. We will be considering it and we'll have more information once we've gone through that process.
Okay, and it was reassuring to hear that the transit-oriented development, transit exchange, I know there were 100 or so listed in the legislation. You mentioned UVic and others, but just to reiterate, a lot of exchanges are not part of this. In fact, they must be larger. Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, that is correct. And we know this is a common question that municipalities have, and we've been trying to work with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit and trying to understand what their intentions are. And there is no kind of automatic process. An exchange is built that it triggers anything, and the ministry is going to be looking into having more communications with municipalities to see how an exchange, again, kind of these larger exchanges, are added to the list in the future.
Good. Improved communications is exactly what.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marshall.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. And I was just looking at the definition of frequent transit bus stops, and they're defined as bus stops with at least one route with the following service. Monday to Friday, a bus must stop at least every 15 minutes on average between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, a bus must stop at least every 15 minutes on average between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So that's, I guess, just the criteria by which you consider it. But I guess even if it meets that criteria, probably doesn't automatically become a transit.
Sooke is quite a ways off of triggering that currently. We have that level of frequency in peak periods on weekdays, but we're not close to that on middays, weekends, and evenings. So it would take significant investment to trigger that with Sooke. And it's something that we're collaborating with staff on through the Victoria Regional Transit Plan update process that's kicking off now and will be completed over the next 12 months, that we'll also be engaging with staff on through the official community plan update process. So we've had some conversations and we'll continue moving forward to deliberate some of those considerations.
Okay, thank you very much. My last comment just on the shelters would be that if you could consider the type of shelter that we currently have that allows for artwork installation. It's very popular within our community, and we have a very artistic community, which I'm sure will have no time finding appropriate artwork to put in there. Okay, we're going to move on to the recommendation then, and that is that council approve the design of the Wadhams Way Transit Exchange and indicate support for this project, and that council support BC Transit proceeding with a funding request from the Victoria Regional Transit Commission for a project implementation. It's moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor McMath. Would you like to speak to it? Any comments, Councillor McMath? Anything from anyone else? Nope, just wonderful to see you here. It's been a while since we approved that local area plan, and then of course COVID delayed everything, but thank you very much for your time and also for sharing some information about the routes and the services. I know that you're hearing from our residents, and I appreciate just the responses that you're taking to find some incremental changes. So I appreciate the work that you're also doing with our staff. So thank you today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll call a question. All in favor, and that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome to stay for the meeting, of course, or head back, head home as needed. Okay, so we'll move on to the new 9.2, which is a bridge rehabilitation program. So over to staff, please.
Thank you. Through the chair. Thank you. Through the chair, annual bridge inspections have identified 3 high priority maintenance items on 3 bridges. Those bridges include Phillips Bridge, Connie Bridge, and Todd Creek Bridge. The district engaged the consultant Morrison Hirschfield, now Stantec, to prepare the drawings and the request for tender to be posted on BC Bid to move forward with these repairs with parts within the abutments. 4 bids were received on BC Bid. The consultant reviewed all bids for compliance and pricing. The current budget allocation is 1.2 million. Test Rate Rigging Limited submitted a bid of $309,077 and was the lowest compliant bid. The budget allocation will also cover contracted men, project management, construction contingency, change orders, and other consultants. Based on the consultant's review and recommendation, council also recommends, her staff also recommend to council that they award the bridge rehabilitation program to Test Rate Rigging Limited. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the report. Just a question that jumps into my mind here automatically is that we thought our budgeted 1.2, and yet the winning compliant bid is quite substantially less. And then some of them are at like 1.8, like significantly higher. So are they just bidding to see because they have other things and don't really want to bid, or were we way over budget, or how did we go from, I mean, it's great to budget 1.2, but when it comes in at 309, it's like, what am I missing here?
Yeah, through your worship, the council, what we've anticipated this outcome is from is due to the fact that higher bids are going to be from contractors that this is not their specialty in, and they would be basically subcontracting it out, and they have very high profit margins probably embedded in their bids. Test Rate Rigging is a specialty contractor that does this work all the time, so they probably have a really competitive bid. They're very familiar with this work, and we're very happy to see the low price.
Questions from others? Okay, the recommendation then is that council award the bridge rehabilitation program to Test Rate Rigging Limited in the amount of $309,077 excluding GST. Moved by Councillor Beddoes and seconded by McMath. Would you like to comment, Councillor Beddoes?
Well, I'm just pleased that it's so low. I see the other ones are steel. I don't know whether it's the composition that makes the difference, but they get the job done for 309,000. I'm happy as hell. So good.
Okay, Councillor McMath. Okay, anything from anyone else? Call the question, all in favor, and that's unanimous. Thank you. So coming up on that time for UBCM ministerial and staffing requests. So I'll turn this over to staff to take us through the report.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council, it's that time again. The deadlines for UBCM resolution submissions are just around the corner at June 15th. And we do have a little bit of time, but it would be great to get in our submissions for UBCM meeting requests to either ministers or ministry staff or MAC agencies. Similar to last year's report, prior to the publishing of this agenda, I circulated a survey directly to each council member. Based on the council member responses, I've included all of the responses to formulate the recommendations for meetings with ministries. Based on the information received by council members. Of course, there's opportunity for council to add to this list as well. In addition to last year's report in the structure, the only change is based on the 2 UBCM submissions submitted Earlier this year, I did receive feedback from UBCM administrative staff just requesting some amended language around our previous submissions, and proposed wording has been provided in the recommendations based on the exact wording they are proposing for council to amend. The intention of this is to provide some more clarity on the submission, and from time to time they do provide feedback for council to review and potentially accept changes prior to final publication in the UBCM resolutions book. I am happy to answer any questions that council may have. I might suggest, because there are a few motions ahead of us, potentially just to go through motion by motion as they are numbered, but open to any other process as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot there. In part, because the convention is held in Victoria, the intention of these meetings was to enable smaller communities who travel greater distance to be able to meet with ministers while attending UBCM and not incur additional travel costs. And given that we are in close proximity to the legislature, is it necessary to meet while at UBCM, or can we not meet outside of UBCM and therefore allow those attending to actually enjoy and participate fully in the convention? So that is my thought. We are there, and the intention of UBCM is to have the town hall meetings, to share and network with our other elected peers, and not to be waiting, in this case, you will need to exit. Not that it's a massive deal, but I'm speaking from previous experience where you are leaving the convention center, walking to the legislature, clear security, need to allow time to get through security and arrive early. And depending on the time, are sometimes stuck within the legislature for hours at a time, because to exit and then have to go all the way back through, it just doesn't make time. So you end up just spending time in the legislature, which unto itself is a beautiful experience. However, not the intention of going to UBCM. So I'll just leave it that while we have this wonderful opportunity, we also have the ability to meet outside of UBCM with the ministers on matters that impact us, our community. So I'll leave it that. To me, it seems to those that are traveling, and sometimes I'm hear from others who are denied opportunities because, and they're wondering, why are you meeting when you can actually get so easily to the legislature? Can't you meet outside of UBCM so that those traveling greater can get there? I'll open with that. Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and and to be fair, yeah, it does sound like we might be sort of hogging some time. But unfortunately, anytime that we try and get any sort of meeting with anybody down at the legislature, they're not there. And here they're making themselves available. And I would not want to miss that opportunity to talk about some of these things that we are really frustrated with. So I'd be inclined, I don't know about the rigmarole going through the legislature, why they couldn't have those rooms in the conference center would be much better for me. I don't know how that's going to work, but I think that I would like to be part of that, to talk to the ministerial staff and the minister directly about some of these things. So that's my input.
Okay, just sharing a different perspective. Okay, go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
I tend to agree with Councillor Beddoes on this one. I have tried to meet with ministers in the year between UBCMs and very limited success. So if we have things that we want to actually discuss, this is when they become available. And I think this is our best chance to do some advocacy work on some pieces. So I don't think it has to be all of us, mind you. I think that there's definitely not a need for everyone to troop in. But I think that this is our opportunity, along with everyone else, to try and have our say.
Okay, Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, I like the trooping in. I like how we moved as a pack and entered and brought our best wishes and aspirations forward. I think it's interesting here in Vancouver, it was indeed in the same conference center. However, here we would have to, for the minister meetings, cabinet ministers over to the legislature, as you say, and that sounds like hell on wheels to get in and out of there. So the other provincial government staff from ministries, agencies, commissions, and corporations are all meeting at the Fairmont. So we could, you know, theoretically book our meetings with the ministers officially. If we as a council request it through the mayor, then I'm sure we would get those meetings at any other time. But we could focus in on these other, the provincial ministries, the agencies. We've got Island Health here. You know, we could meet with ministerial staff, not the minister, Mr. Farnworth, who probably has seen enough of us over the last number of years. So there are ways, there are workarounds that if we avoid the cabinet ministers and focus in on staff, we could still get our advocacy pieces brought forward in what I find really a productive week where we're firing on all cylinders as a team.
Okay, well, we'll go through it and see where we land. The first one here, okay, we'll do this in order here. Let's see, that staff be directed to pursue a meeting with the following cabinet ministers at the 2025 Union of BC Municipalities Conference. So Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs. It's showing the impact of social housing on municipal services, including policing demands related to Macola-Drennan housing, Housing Supply Act implementation in Sooke, including timeline for housing targets and implications of the provincial housing advisor appointment, infrastructure and community advocacy, including the rebuild of Sooke Elementary, safety improvements at John Muir Elementary School, and sewer expansion across the Sooke River to Kaltassin with South First Nation. That's a lot to cover in 15 minutes with one minister. So that's what had come forward from staff. So obviously one of us put that forward, so I'll just leave it that is the first motion that's been laid out. Should somebody wish to move it?
Yeah, I'll move that.
It's moved by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor McMath. So go ahead.
I think Minister Calhoun is the one that we would want to meet with, given our dialogue as a municipality with his ministry. And he's responsible for 44 and 47 and all these SHMU and the whole package. So I think it'd be worthwhile for us to meet directly with him. A number of these items here came from me, and one of the key points here, Housing Supply Act implementation, my suggestion was that we find out whether or not Sooke can expect to be targeted for and have a provincial housing advisor appointed to us. Nice to get some clarity about that and to promote the fact that in fact we are in fact moving forward at a pretty rapid pace with our housing here in Sooke, at an uncomfortable pace in fact, and hence we need his support for our infrastructure and community advocacy, which would include getting the Minister of Transportation and Transit to be fast tracking Highway 14 improvements. And these other key issues here cited, would the Minister of Municipal Affairs support us in getting safety improvements at John Muir Elementary and the rebuild of Sooke Elementary, and for the sewer expansion piece? So that would seem to be, if I remember, we met with the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister Kang, when we were championing, or you were championing the sewer expansion with the Sooke. And here is the new Minister of Municipal Affairs. So that would be my logic for 15 minutes, and a lot of that can be condensed pretty quickly. We want your advocacy and support for X, Y, Z, and we want you to recognize the speed with which this community is growing, uncomfortably in many ways, and you need to make sure that your colleagues are aware of this. And if we have MLA Lajeunesse in the room with us as well, which I think is part of this motion, that would be a good opportunity, a good 15 minutes well spent.
Okay, the seconder was Counselor McMath.
We can also triage. So 15 minutes is not a lot of time. So we can discuss, we can divide and conquer for each of these meetings as well. So if you want to still be doing the other pieces outside, we can pair off and go to these. And then we, out of that one, because it is a longer list, we can triage. So if we don't get to the other ones, we're not missing on our biggest issue.
Counselor St. Pierre.
I would suggest actually paring it down immediately to what we really, really need and want. And that would be the sewer expansion and possibly assistance with the Ministry of Transportation on Throop Road. Because those are the big ticket items where the money's not there and we need help. But that's what they want too. They want to see us able to put in more density, and that's what allows more density. So it's in alignment with what they're asking us for. And we're just letting them know, we want to do what you want us to. Can you give us support in that area? The other items here, I think that that's something that we can bring up with staff. I think it's stuff that we can bring up in letters and so on and so forth. But I think that hitting hard and heavy on points of alignment where we need help would be more useful.
Okay, thank you. I'll just note though that, yes, we were not successful with the grant to cross that we applied for with the Sooke. However, Sooke do have a new chief and council. And I am unaware if this remains priority. So I don't want to attend a meeting and advocate on something that does not, unless we have secured their blessing or a letter of support on something that we assume that they want. Councillor St. Pierre.
My understanding is that the district has a long-standing agreement with the Sooke in return for actually allowing, the sewer pipe from the wastewater treatment plant to go into the basin to actually bring that pipe across. And I don't think that that longstanding agreement has been changed. So I would assume that unless
The agreement was to connect IR2, which is now connected.
Okay, so we did it. Well, that's good.
And then it was work together with former Premier, the late Premier Horgan, Chief Planas, the Sooke and the district, and we collaborated and expanded our plant. And then the intention was to apply for the secondary grant. We were not successful, but they've had a change since then. So without having a clear mandate from the Sooke, to confirm that is their direction. Councillor Beddoes and Pearson.
Yeah, well, I would still like to, if we have to phone up or contact the Sooke and see if they're still interested, but I think that sewer expansion across the river is to our benefit as well. Regardless if they're going to want it. I know they need to be consulted and stuff, but there's a lot of lands over there that can be opened up, some industrial lands that we need desperately. And the problem with the basin, I looked down at Keltassin at those, I was at one of those buildings there today, right on the water, 3 feet above high tide, with a septic system, which I just fear fails, and I think there probably are seeping into it. So I think that's a high priority for me. I would like to see us advocate for that, and we can certainly check in time in the next little while whether we include the Sooke Nation in that, and I'm pretty sure they'd probably want it as well. But I don't know that for sure. But I want it as a councillor. I want to see that go through. Some of the others, I think that they're well aware of it. The rebuild, the safety improvements. I go back to Councillor St. Pierre. If we zero in on the Throop Road extension, I mean, these are all the things that say they wanted for housing. Well, if they're screaming about housing, a sewer expansion would aid that. The Throop Road extension would help with the traffic problems, because people are not going to want to live out here if they can't drive to and from. So I think those are two very, very important items that we should be pushing hard on.
Okay, Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, listening to everyone's comments, and I don't disagree with anything, but I think the way that this has been presented to me personally feels like a little bit of Charlie Brown's mom, right? It's the same issues, and so I thought it was his mom or the teacher. Anyways, I think I always like meeting with the minister because they're the ones who can actually make it happen. I think we have to maybe rehearse our kind of, what is critical, but it's hard to, for me, I'm looking at the list and the input and Sooke Elementary School rebuilding. It should have been done a long time ago. It does aid on the traffic on Sooke Road. It's all those little things that add up to everything, right? And I just feel sometimes we're gonna go there and we heard you. And then thanks for your 15 minutes. I fear that. And I'm not getting a clear sense. I hear around the table, oh, yep, through road, but it's not listed here, right? So we have to be, if we're gonna do it, then let's get the spear aimed exactly at the right spot where we think we're gonna have the biggest impact. So. Yeah. Okay, and I agree with what the mayor said in her opening statement. Sometimes you get caught up in this bureaucracy and you think you're doing something, and then how many results have we seen from these advocacies? Sometimes you get little things like Dan Levitt came last year and I appreciated that meeting more than any of the other ones. Sometimes the ministers are just taking notes and I fear it gets lost. Thank you.
Okay, okay, Councillor McMath.
Just, that all can be sorted out later. So we don't have to sort that out tonight. We can either have a special or we can discuss that when we get there and have perhaps a script that is more succinct. But for now, just as we go through all of this, we don't have to have we don't have to be triaging tonight.
I think we need to finalize it and then staff put through an online form on whom we want to meet with and what it's about. And that's why there is a deadline. And you do need to have the content on there.
Yes, but we don't have to go through piece by piece or line by line on what's our first item. Like those kind of conversations don't need to happen right now.
No, it's more the intent of the meeting and why. Okay. So I'm going to call the question on this first one because we're breaking it down. This is the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs specifically. Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Okay.
I really think that we should amend it to make it more specific. Otherwise, I can't support it as is. I think it's going to be a waste of time.
Okay, propose an amendment then? In the microphone on.
Absolutely. Replace all the bullets with money, I guess, assistance with the through road connector and potentially, and I think we should touch base with the Sooke expansion across the Sooke River to Kaltassin. But I would even just pare that right down to Throop.
If I may. The proposed amendment is not in alignment with the spirit of the original motion. Changing all of the content would be a separate direction. So the proposed amendment would be out of order. What I might suggest is to vote down the main motion on the floor, or if there's a specific addition you would like or a specific item you would like to subtract versus rewriting the entire motion.
Okay, I would like to call the question on this then. So the motion stands as presented. Everyone's commented if 1 or 2 times. All those in favor? And opposed is myself, Councillor St. Pierre, Councillor Pearson, Councillor Bateman didn't vote, so he's in favor. So that's a defeated tie vote. So would someone like to propose a new motion?
Point of order, your worship. What is the deadline for getting this done?
I don't recall. Just a second, let's just look that up.
And
Staff is just getting an answer here.
And the reason I say this is that this is just a hodgepodge of all the ideas that the different councils put in. And we really haven't had a chance to sit down and go through it one by one and see if this is what we want to go. I mean, I know Councillor Bateman put stuff in, I put a few things in, and but all of them don't need to go. And I understand what Councillor McMath says, that we could thin it out later, but something has to go to the minister by July, whatever the date is. I don't know.
Okay, we're getting that answer.
Okay.
Thank you, through the mayor to council. The deadline for the meeting submissions is in fact July 1st. And the only other meeting submission to be aware of is if we wanted to submit to BC Hydro, which has a June 20th deadline. What I might suggest, if council needs more time to digest, is to defer this report to the next council meeting. However, I would suggest that council consider the proposed amendments to the UBCM resolution submissions, which are indicated as number 5 and 6 in this staff report. It would be beneficial if we could get back to UBCM on the proposed amendments for our past UBCM submissions to ensure that we're not holding up any production of the resolutions book.
Okay, so
I would need, first I would like the decisions on proposed amendments 5 and 6. And at that time, if council would like to defer this report, I would suggest a motion after that.
okay, so I'm going to move to item 5 then, and we'll focus on that. And that is the proposed amendment and the recommendation, because you've seen we've submitted this and they've come forward here, that council endorse the revised resolution titled Funding for 911 Services as proposed by UBCM staff and included in attachment 3, and direct staff to submit the amended resolution to UBCM for consideration at the 2025 convention.
So
That's moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by St. Pierre. Any comments? No, okay, go ahead. And no.
Just quickly, I looked them over. I think they're in line with what we had in mind.
Okay, so I will call the question on this one. All those in favor, please. That's carried unanimously. And then we'll do item 6. And that is that council endorse the revised resolution titled Taxation of Utility Companies as proposed by UBCM staff and included in attachment 4, and direct staff to submit the amended resolution to UBCM for consideration at the 2025 convention. Moved by Councillor Bateman and seconded by McMath. Would you like to comment, Councillor Bateman? In the microphone so we can all hear you.
In the microphone. Hello, world. There is, it's just being slightly tweaked. So through you to our corporate officer, these are recommendations made by UBCM to us? Yes.
That is correct. The exact wording was provided by the UBCM administration.
That says it all. Thank you.
Okay, anything from Councillor McMath? Thank you. All those in favor then, and that's carried unanimously. And then a motion to defer the remaining items to the next regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by McMath. Anything to comment on?
Actually, yes. I did actually send some input, but I think it might have been late or maybe it just didn't get to you. I'm not really sure, but I did send some stuff in and I didn't actually see it reflected here. So I'll try and see if I can touch base and make sure that that happens. I hope that we can adjust these accordingly.
Well, and that will give you time to, if
Yep.
it's not, to prepare any amendments or so forth to
Absolutely.
suggested language. Anything from Councillor McMath? Seeing none, thank you. All those, okay, Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I'm going to vote against a deferral because we're underway here. There are 3 ministerial cabinet minister requests and a request for Island Health. And the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. I think you've made some very valid points vis-a-vis the accessibility of cabinet ministers throughout the year. We might, in fact, want to look at removing the Minister of Transportation and Transit from our list and the Minister of Health. If indeed we would like to just focus in on the Minister of Housing. Under the Minister of Transportation and Transit are the very things that would be going into a new motion for our meeting with the municipal affairs. So I'll vote against.
Okay, thank you. Just further to that, this will then provide all of council an opportunity to revisit what they're thinking and come prepared for the next meeting. So I'm in support of deferral. So I'll call the question then. All those in favor of deferral? Opposed is Councillor St. Pierre, and that carries. Or pardon me, good grief, Councillor Bateman. I'm sorry. Okay. Sleep at the wheel here. Okay. Item 10, bylaws. I'm seeing none. New business. Any new business items? This would be anything following the delegations or anything from members of council. Councillor Pearson.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of thinking about it. I took
Are
some-
you putting a notice of motion for it?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that is what you're doing, is you're reading a notice of motion into the record.
Yes, and I'm trying to get in my head what the notice of motion said. Based on the presentation from delegation number 2, I'm trying to think of what the number was. I would like to understand, and I'm trying to figure out what my word is. 5.2, Jim Mitchell, request wording change from Sooke use permit bylaw 224. I'd like to put a notice of motion that council request a report on the issue and as presented. Because I didn't understand. I was trying to follow the bounds.
Okay, you don't need to motivate because you're just reading it in.
Okay, yep.
So it'll be for
If-
council, direct staff to report back.
If I may request clarification on what exact issue you would like a report on.
Food trucks, food trucks and regulations around food trucks can,
You want clarification on
I want clarification on, the wording change that he's asking for, but also there were some other issues that were brought up in that presentation around sewer. I would like to understand what constitutes treatment on secondary, because he was speaking to language that I don't understand.
Thank you. So if I may parrot this back, that council requests a report from staff on the current status of our bylaw in relationship to food trucks hooking up to the sewer and regulations and classifications surrounding that.
I hope that gets it all. Because there was a lot of information that came.
Okay, well,
Good. Oh.
it's a notice of motion. So what this will do then is it will flow to the next meeting. Council will debate it there and receive a staff report. And then following that, as you know, the agenda goes live days in advance. That'll provide an opportunity for you to connect with the impacted party if that report covers off. And it provides plenty of time to get additional feedback.
There was some correspondence that was given into what opportunity do we have to read that correspondence?
Well, I asked specifically that the correspondence go to the corporate officer to be circulated to council.
Okay, thank you.
So it'll come to you and that'll be part of the staff report. Yes, Councillor St. Pierre, this is a notice of motion.
Please, I would like to know in your motion about whether or not the amendments that the gentleman was suggesting might be helpful. So what I saw in what was given to us didn't necessarily include that. So I don't know if that would need amendment to the motion as it stands, or will staff do that anyway?
What I would suggest is the notice of motion as it stands, of course, for debate for council at that next meeting. And if council has direction on the content of the staff report, at that next meeting would be appropriate.
Okay, so we can clarify it.
Because at the next meeting, you'll see the wording of the notice of motion and you'll also receive the written correspondence. So trying to digest what we're getting from memory now and what has just been read out is not helpful. So I would wait till the next meeting when it's all in print in front of us, and then you can actually look at amending the language.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, any other new business items? Okay, well, moving into our correspondence requiring action. The first one, 12.1, Paula Johansson, letter to council and Sooke trustee on the library board. So this is pulled by Councillor Beddoes.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This might take me a minute. I hope you will allow me some time.
So how about a motion to receive first? We can second it and then you can speak up to 5 minutes, because right now we don't know what you're going to say. It's just receiving for information.
Okay, then.
Motion to receive.
Motion to receive.
Seconded by Councillor St. Pierre, and there you go.
All right. Do we have to vote on that or?
No.
Okay. Yeah, for most of you know that it's not just one letter here. I had 15 letters in regards to the hours of the possible cutting back the hours of the Sooke Island Regional Library branch here. And so I took it to, had a Zoom meeting with the executive director of the Vancouver Island Regional Library, as well as attended a board meeting this Saturday. And So what's going on is the implementation of the Standardized Scheduling and Operation Review, SSOR, which started in 2023. But what's that mean is Vero is negotiating with CUPE and BCGEU as we speak. So that has gotten very complicated because that stuff is confidential. And so a lot of rumors are floating around about the cutbacks to the hours, which have, in my thing, some validity that this standardized scheduling and operation review does involve cutting back hours. So, but what it looks like is unknown at this time because again, it's locked into confidentiality. And so I'm concerned that the cookie cutter approach that the libraries through this SSOR process, and what they want to do is they want all this hours standardized throughout all the similar size libraries, but it doesn't take into account the fact that Sooke is unique in that not all, but a good portion of our population has to work in Greater Victoria. And they do not get home till 6 o'clock, where if you're living in a town like Chemainus, where the mill's off at 4:30 and all those workers can be home and to the library by 5 or 6 o'clock. So the drastically cutting back of hours, the evening hours, especially 5 days a week, would really harm this community. And we pay through taxes for that very great facility. So anyways, I stressed to the executive director and the board that Sooke is unique. Our citizens work in the CRD and often don't get home until 6 or later. I was told that they like it standard. So if somebody comes from Lake Cowichan, they would know what the hours are before they leave, which to me is a bit of a stretch because if I'm going up to Chemainus or one of those towns and I want to visit a library, I'll check it on my phone to find out exactly when the hours are. So anyways, some of the rumors going around is right now the library is open till 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, and that they might be cut back to 7 o'clock. Again, these are just sort of rumors with a little bit of credibility, not much to say about that. So, and it also concerns me that the SSOR, which I just mentioned, is a guise to cut back services monetarily, because it's not just the hours of operation. There seems to be some, and that's why CUPE and BC Government Union are both balking at it. So what I would like to ask this council is, I would like the mayor and council to send a letter to Vancouver Island Regional Library and ask them that we will be appraised of any changes before implementation. And that gives us an opportunity to have a look at what's really going on. I think my inquiries struck a note there. I think they were a little bit taken aback that there's such a pushback. And thank you for the citizens of Sooke that took the time to send emails to me, because it gave me a fair bit of ammunition. So that's my ask. So I guess I'm going to put that in a motion.
Yeah, what we'll do is, because the first part is to receive, so we can call the question on that. And then the second part would be sort of a motion arising on this. And that's where we can have like council direct staff to write a letter to be signed by the mayor. We'll get to that, but
Yeah,
the first,
okay.
we'll deal with one and then we'll move to the other. Okay, so I'll call the question on receipt. All those in favor, please. That's unanimous. Thank you. And the next part would be that council directs staff to send a letter to request that council be appraised of any changes related to the Vancouver Island Library's operating hours.
Operating, yeah, I'd say, I'd like it. I just got to think about this. It's not just the operating hours, staffing too, because
And staffing and
like I've seen this report that's out and the hours. Of course, I can't say it's valid because it's in consultation with the union. But let's see, the library hour. Okay, that should do it.
okay, that council directs staff to send a letter to request that council be appraised of any changes related to the Vancouver Island Library operating hours and staffing in Sooke.
Correct.
Okay, so
That's my motion.
moved by Councillor Beddoes. Is there a seconder? seconded by Pearson. Okay, is there anything further you would like to comment on?
Unfortunately, I can't because.
No, I mean, just
Yeah.
on the motion.
No, other
Okay.
than I was, I've talked to a lot of people on this matter, not just, I went over to the library, talked to the librarians and everybody. Probably shouldn't have, but I need to get an accurate picture. One of the things I have to stress to the board is that it's a two-edged sword for me. I have to look at the well-being of all 39 libraries, but I also have to be concerned with the citizens here in Sooke. And it was a pretty strong voice that came back saying that, what there could be proposing would be disastrous for Sooke.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pearson as a seconder.
Yeah, and I would propose an amendment.
Okay.
I think
Can you
that-
make the amendment and then
Yep.
we can discuss it?
that the letter's great, the content and the measures that were opposed, that the District of Sooke is opposed to any changes to the current format, a reduction in service.
Okay,
That would result in a reduction of service to the community.
okay. Councillor Beddoes is raising a flag on that, given that he's the trustee.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't want to go that far because there is some financial implications here because the budget of Vero, there may have to be some give and take in the end result. I would have to see exactly what they're proposing before I would oppose it. Sometimes like there might be an opportunity to move the hours or things. So I would just like to leave it like that. I appreciate Councillor Pearson's concerns. I think that overall we are opposed, but we're not sure what we're opposed to yet. So let's wait and see if we get in advance what they're planning. And again, I can share an individual in camera to the council members of sort of what came up. And there was something came
Okay.
out that shouldn't have came out.
Let's just leave it at that because
Yeah,
it was in
I prefer
camera.
that.
The motion is as it is. So let's just talk about the original motion. Councillor McMath, and then I'll go to St. Pierre.
I agree with Councillor Pearson, because if we're just waiting to be notified, then what is the point of sending the letter at all? Because they're going to notify us by saying, this is what we're implementing. So I don't see the purpose of this letter. There can be softer language, but because we don't know what's happening, we could say, should this be an item that is up for discussion, please know this is where we stand on that. Something softer like that. You can add into there, or however you want to frame it, that the letter comes back to council before we send it, if that makes you feel more comfortable. But otherwise, I don't see the point of sending a letter, hey, can you let us know if you make changes?
Okay, I just see our corporate officer and then can you turn off your microphone? Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Beddoes.
What I might suggest if Councillor Pearson wanted to propose an amendment of the wording of the motion in front of us, instead of the words appraise, strike out appraised and replace it with consulted. So that council be consulted on any changes. Consulted prior to.
Okay,
Would you like to make that amendment,
Yeah.
Councillor Pearson?
All right, that.
okay, so let's make that amendment, Councillor Pearson, and just so we can follow the bouncing ball here, that council be consulted prior to, and then strike out appraised of any. Okay,
Yep,
that's
I'm good with
moved.
that.
That amendment is moved by Pearson and seconded by McMath. So would you like to speak on it, Pearson?
No,
No, but you're speaking?
Yeah.
no, I'm going to turn off my microphone. I think it's clear.
Counselor McMath? Okay. Anyone on the amendments? Okay, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. So now on the main amended motion, Nathan, on the main amended motion. Counselor St. Pierre.
I support the motion, especially as it stands, because I think what we need to be careful about here is, I think the important thing is keeping it open until 9 o'clock. All those other arrangements, how many staff are in the building, so on and so forth, we can leave that up to Vero, we can leave that up to Councillor Beddoes, who seems to be doing a great job. But keeping it open, there's a lot of organizations that won't be able to have meetings, AGMs, who knows what. It's one of the few public spaces that these groups can actually access. It would actually have a huge impact on our NGO sector to not have that building open till 9 o'clock. So it's important.
Yeah. Okay, so we have the main amended motion. Anything further? Call the question. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so you'll see that. So the next item is a letter that came from Minister Callon on small scale multi-unit housing. So I just put together this item, and that would be that council received the letter from Minister Callon and direct staff to provide an update on the status of small scale multi-unit housing applications, how many applications have been approved and are pending approval, feedback from local developers and or their ability to develop said form of units, and further to advise council if this letter applies to the district of Sooke or should further work be required to conform to the minister's mandates outlined in the letter. Yes, you'll move it. Thank you. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Pearson.
I was waiting for discussion. I actually agree with the letter, but I'm wondering if we need most of the first part. I think the second part is more in relation to the letter itself. How does this actually apply? And is there further work needed to be done? When I read the letter, it seemed to point to a number of specific places where the minister feels that various local governments are not necessarily making it easier for the smooth legislation to be enacted and for people to use it in practical sense. I think that I would appreciate a report on that. The rest of it, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how useful it would be and if it would actually be a useful thing for staff, a way to spend their times.
That's fine. Councillor Pearson.
No, I think what it does is it gives staff a chance to interact with council and lets us know what the implications are from a staffing point of view and cost to the district and process. So I think it's straightforward. So I support. Okay,
thank you. So I did pen it rather quickly, but we received the letter and I know it went out to all mayor and board chairs. So in part, it's like, does it apply to us? It could be just going to everybody, or maybe we're fine. So I just want to make sure that we're not caught on anything. But at the same time, given that this has moved forward, is this actually, what is this doing in our community? We don't know. It doesn't come forward to our table anymore. So it was just, and I'm hearing a mixed bag out there of feedback. So that's where I just like to know what our staff's experience with it is and what is working and what isn't, or is there other creative forms of housing that are now being restricted? I don't know that, but I'm getting a mixed bag. So that's why I requested the staff report. So thank you. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, so I find it one paragraph here, comment for 3 to 4 unit projects, you should consider aligning with the recommended 1 parking space per unit in your parking minimums. Now, this came up at the Sooke Builders Association luncheon just the other day. Patrick Marsden of the association noted that he is aware of a lot of duplexes being proposed within the SHMU zone. However, triplex and quadplex units are not forthcoming. And he surveyed the 30 builders in the room, and none of them are working on anything other than duplexes or single family. And so his main point, one holdup, is the parking ratio for our lots is the 1.5 per unit parking space ratio. And that means 6 cars in a 4-plex, and the lots generally aren't big enough. So that's just coming out of the building community, that kind of sentiment. And Mr. Marshall was there, of course, so he heard that, and that might be part of the staff report to get back.
Okay, Mr. Marshall.
Yeah, maybe when we put the zoning, the SHMU zoning, well, we were discussing how to change the zoning bylaw to accommodate the new legislation. There were discussions with council specifically around parking issues. And it was, I wasn't here at the time, but it's my understanding that there was a lot of concern with the number of cars that are up and down streets, and that there isn't enough parking on the lots themselves, and that it's become quite a problem. And so it is the provincial recommendation that you only do 1 parking space per unit. But I think from my understanding, council saw this as being a problem. And if we just had the one per unit on the lot, then it would be that much more of a spillover into the streets. So that's why staff made that specific change. And so open to discussing that further if there's new desires or new approach.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the question then. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next one is 12.3 RCMP Municipal Multi-Year Financial Plan, 26 to 27 to 3031. And within this, it's requested that staff be directed to provide an approval in principle letter no later than June 15, 2025. Moved by Councillor McMath, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Comments?
Thrilled to have staff go through this for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from anyone else? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I found the report fascinating. It covers, the first half of it is all about the larger picture of policing in BC at the moment, and then it hones in very distinctly onto the Sooke RCMP. But on page 164, the second page, they're talking about summary of personnel growth assigned to municipal services for 2026, 27 beyond, and they've listed our I believe the RM, which is a regular member, at 18 across the board. But our 5-year financial plan is looking at dramatic increases in our policing budget to meet at least 19 officers, I believe, by 2029. So I'm just curious as to why that is.
I'm going from memory here, but my understanding is it's sort of like, here's the number, but then this is where we get updates from our CMP on whether that number is meeting the actual service and the unique needs of Sooke specifically. So I think the challenge would be if our budget was less than the required provincial, this provincial plan, and we were delivering under. But in this way, we're receiving the regular meetings, and that's why I think we are looking to increase the complement to go with our specific needs, because that's what we're doing here. That makes sense. Okay. All right, so I think this has been moved and seconded, so I'll call the question. All in favor, please, and that's carried unanimously. 12.4, we received the Office of the Ombudsperson quarterly reports. These are from 2024, so there's 2 sets here. And it's just for council's information because they come in the mail to me, so I'm putting them out here as we sometimes do receive queries of Ombudsperson's files. So it's just to receive for information, please. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Beddoes. Any comments? Any comments? Anything from anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor, and that's unanimous. The other one is 12.5, Victoria Taxi Plate Application to Passenger Transportation Board. Sometimes council comments, other times we don't. It's just here for information otherwise. No, motion to, yes? Motion to receive by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor McMath. Any comments? Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, so they're making a plate application to bring in service into Sooke, 4 regular taxis, 1 wheelchair accessible vehicle. We currently have only the 1 taxi service. And then there is the matter of Uber being approved for operations right across the province by the provincial authority, which is why I pulled that correspondence, because I think we need to hear as well about how Uber will impact. Anyway,
this is an increase in taxi service.
Yeah, so not a bad thing at all.
Councillor St. Pierre?
I saw no request specifically within the letter for us to do anything. And because there is going to be obviously a fight over the business between Uber and the taxi services, I don't think it's something, I think in the past we've had this sort of thing come forward and we decided to, stay out of it because it's not actually, our wheelhouse related to, we're not allowed to. So receive information, I think that's what we can do. And that's about it.
That's about it. Some people will continue to use taxis and some folks will use Urbu, or this way people need a safe ride, they can get one. People apparently, according to recent police files, are still driving and should have taken another option. Anyway, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Items removed from the consent agenda. There are none, so that correspondence will go to the next. So we'll turn to council verbal reports. Councillor St. Pierre.
I will start with the night of, honestly, the celebration on Saturday was amazing. I think the mayor said about 1,000 people showed up.
Yeah.
Great showcase with Woodside Farm. Amazing job by the people that coordinated, and of course by our team, I think led by Miss Moog. Just a great event in general. Good cupcakes too.
Other comments? Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, I was at Woodside Farm as well, along with all of us. And yeah, that was really wonderful afternoon, morning. The Pride event at Journey Middle School, Councillor St. Pierre was there and myself and the mayor. And the mayor spoke very eloquently, a rousing speech around courage in the face of bullying and discrimination and kindness as well. Yeah, there was quite a special event. Hundreds of kids singing along to True Colors. And that's School District 62 celebrating Pride Month in Sooke. So we had a Community Economic Development Committee meeting a week ago, and Ms. Scott updated us on her main priorities, which are the municipal regional destination tax. The Ministry of Finance is so impressed with our submission that they're recommending that we move forward with implementation to November, but that still is an official decision to be made, but that's the advanced word Ms. Scott has got. She told us about the Business Services Cooperative, which is underway, and also Destination BC is closing in on its final report on the Juan de Fuca Corridor Tourism Plan, and that will be brought forward to council, I think, before our summer recess. And that's pretty interesting. It's got all sorts of yeah. So there's that. We also made a couple of motions. One is to seek a staff report on the business beautification program that we were told about at the last meeting, council meeting. We also moved, thanks to Councillor Beddoes, strongly raised the point that we need a more robust meeting schedule. We will have 8 meetings between now and the end of term next year. And that's simply not enough given the enthusiasm, work ethic, and talents of the people around the table. So we will bring that forward. We'll pull it out of the consent agenda next meeting and ask council's support to move to a what is it? An expanded schedule. Sooke Builders Association luncheon, and just kudos to Mr. Marshall for standing up there for a good hour and fielding questions in a, I think one of his best points he made was that the building association is welcome to meet with him and whatever necessary staff as an organization on a regular basis. And he suggests that meeting could have an agenda and the involvement of the necessary staff. And he also welcomes individual developers reaching out to him or anyone. Yet if the Builders Association acts as a body, it will save a lot of time and get some good work done. Victoria Family Court and Youth Justice Committee, we had our open house in Victoria. I just want to mention one, there was a remarkable former RCMP officer was there. She's got an auxiliary position with West Shore RCMP, and she specializes in restorative justice work with kids and teenagers who fall off they've gone astray. And she does this great work. So I hope that maybe Sooke RCMP might consider that, and I'll raise that when Staff Sergeant meets with us again. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Pearson.
Meeting. Several other groups. There were some interesting theories you know, aside from the MRDT, which was the overarching, you know, very positive news. The need for commercial space and rental space, performance space was brought up by people. I did reach out to the community association to sort of clarify what they're charging now, apparently. So Amber Academy is not going to experience near the level of increases that was presented at the economic development, according to someone from the executive from there. There was, and then the next day I went to Fuca Water Commission. I've already reported on that. We have the best tasting water at the symposium. Conservation level 1, day 1 for water conservation was June 3rd. There's some interesting potential increases that they're watching due to steel tariffs and steel piping and things like that. So some of the supplies could drastically be increased in a little while. There was a proposal in December that arose from the Juan de Fuca Water Commission about mirroring the Nanaimo billing rate, that they tier the rate of billing. So the more you save, the more you pay, or the less you pay, I should say. How's that? So it's the exact opposite. But after review through the board, they don't see that it actually pays for itself. They set the rate to cover the expenses, and that seems to be the best balance. So encouraging people to conserve water at a different rate isn't necessarily as beneficial to the organization. So they haven't seen, so people use kind of what they use, was the theory. I sort of thought it sounded kind of, it said consumption maybe, and you know, that was one of the things. The 5-year, $25.6 million in projects through 2025. November 7th, completion of the Sooke Road from Phillips Road to Charter Street is, no, it goes right, sorry, it goes up to the roundabout. The projected completion date, November 7th, with substantial improvements all along the way. So they've got sort of what they feel is the worst traffic parts of it done right now, like through the dip where you didn't have much options, you know, because it's right at Bella Vista, but they're going to be up above that. They had a couple of spur lines that they had to come across near over to Drennan Street. So they're the Regional Water Board is actually quite happy with that, with where they're at. No big hiccups. There's going to be, you know, little adjustments somewhere. I'm sure Mr. Carter knows, here and there. And interesting, they have been finding wooden staved pipe and et cetera down where they're digging. And it said artifacts, but I didn't really know what he meant by artifacts. So they might be finding something. So yeah. So, but that worst part of it is just about completed. So, and then on Saturday, I like it. Everyone else, I went to Woodside Farm and enjoyed a very nice day, very positive day.
Councillor McMath? Councillor Beddoes?
Sure.
Microphone.
Yeah, get the microphone on. First of all, I attended all these other things, economic development. Sooke Building Association was very interesting because we had 3 councillors there and Mr. Marshall, and we supported each other. And it came across very well to some of the builders because they came to me after and spoke that how much things have improved, and having the new building inspector there, introducing him too was a good move. Mr. Marshall did a bang up job, but also my colleagues there as well. We dispelled some rumors that were going around about how things were being presented, and everybody was nodding their head in approval. So we made an impact that time. Of course, I mentioned I met with the executive director of Vancouver Island Regional Library on Zoom, and I also attended the board meeting on Saturday. So I was a little late getting to the 25-year celebration, but all worked out fairly well. On Sea Park is an interesting thing. The strat plan is done. We had the printed version put to us, and it was all explained to us. by our manager, and our manager's coming at the next meeting and give us a blow by blow. She's going to go through the whole thing to understand. It's in a very easy format to understand, and I look forward to sharing that with you when she's here. Hopefully she'll bring you a paper copy of the strat plan, because it's nice to have on hand. The other thing is the referendum, the reverse referendum about the skate park and updating the HE I got written down here. Anyways, heat exchanger, that's right. There was 7 votes cast against it. 7. So that was very interesting. I think there was 12, but 4 of them lived outside of our area, so they didn't count. So basically 7 were against that. So that's passed, and they're working up getting that skate park going back in action. And we're always looking for updates on our heat exchanger, which will make the Sea Park that's much more energy efficient. So I think I covered that. Mary, you were there, so if you had anything more to add to it, so.
Yep, I'll just add, so yes, their staff will come to present, so it's not on Councillor Beddoes to share all that, but it is an excellent strategic plan. And then it was 7 for the alternative approval process. So that's on the consent agenda at the board for this Wednesday. And then they can move on with demoing the existing sites and then rebuilding the new skate park, which is exciting for Sooke. Yep, so you certainly have all of that correct. And the heat recovery is to take the additional heat from the arena and put it into the pool and back and forth, which is a great, so we're not wasting on both sides. It's continuing through the project. So no, that's great. Are you, anything else to add?
I don't think so.
You're good? Okay, so just want to thank our staff and all of the partners, the Sooke Region Museum, Sooke Lions Club, some of our staff for providing first aid, and some of the others that were present for the 25 celebration. It was meant to be a celebration, so not speeches and a parade of politicians, just for the community to get out together. Very interactive for a lot of children. So it's an area where kids can just run free and explore and meet up animals if they wanted to go in or not, or view them from a distance. It was up to them. And also to go through and get a snack and to then get lost in the apple maze. So a lot of excitement. They also have an old sort of boat, I suppose, that's been repurposed as like a pirate ship for kids to play on and climb on. And I think I saw a lot of parents just enjoying the shade, relaxing while their kids were roaming about the property. So it's quite exciting. We received some criticism about having the event at that location and not in Ed McGregor, but with 1,000 young people, it's way too small. The parking would have been an adverse impact on businesses that are really busy on Saturday. So in that case, and you know, as a parent, Ed McGregor is full of prickly stuff. Like, don't go into the vegetation and stay out of this. So this way, and they don't like to sit and listen to people. So they want to do their own thing. So it was just a great space for children just to run free. Everything there they can eat. So if they did wander into the strawberry patch, they could eat them. Not that that was encouraged, but the intention of everything is that you can eat and try different things. So not all of our plantings are of that sort. So I think it's just, it shows just with the amount of children and families there, it's really filled a gap of what has been missing. My son was at a birthday party and he was disappointed that he wasn't at this particular event with me. Normally he finds them all kind of boring unless there's a market or something, but he actually wants to go. I told him about the maze and he has 3 buddies that are all queuing up to go. So it just shows for that age group, they have something to just run around and enjoy. So I thought that was great. Thank you to council as well as some of our staff for joining with me at Journey for the rainbow events. We did get really good feedback in that parents and even some of the kids just said, thank you for being here with us today. And I have received that ever since, so really appreciate that. Exciting about Sea Park for sure. And on that note, they've worked with us for the development of Ravens Ridge. So if you haven't been up there, I would encourage you to take a look. The crew is making their way out of that project. So they've started at the multi-use gaming area, working their way out to the roadside, and it's a significant improvement for accessibility, for the parking, and then just the gaming area for free play or basketball or soccer on a 3-on-3 style court, as well as the other amenities. They've done a tremendous job there. So I encourage you to get out. Some other details, and I understand the intention is to have sort of a community event there, just to mark that milestone of achievement in the next while. In terms though, I'll go back to the one at Woodside Farm. So I understand over 1,000 people. It's the first time we've involved transit to get the transit shuttle. So be curious to see what the use was. I did see people getting on and off, although I drove. But I would also share that of the 1,000 people, 20 minutes of cleanup, half a bag of garbage, and a bunch of recycling was all that was packed out that day. So that's quite remarkable, and it's things to build on for the future. I'll share that I did meet with our MLA earlier today. So great to see our MLA, mixing everyone's name up. MLA La Jeunesse back in Municipal Hall. So we have had a more informal lunch together, and then it was trying to jive up schedules. And so we talked a little bit about how will we be meeting going forward. And so not that it has a total formal boardroom, but I used the example from when we had the late Premier Horgan as our MLA, as we sort of had buckets. We talked about health, we talked about highways, we talked about housing, and then here's other district initiatives. Here's where we can use some provincial or federal support. Here's other things coming down from the province, but it's always like, where are we making traction on these three things? So we sort of feel that's a good framework to continue building on and attempt to meet quarterly, depending on parliamentary schedules and so on. He does intend to open his local office very soon, so we'll be inviting us to attend that, which is really exciting that he's landed something here in Sooke. They also shared that this was announced in March, so I'm comfortable sharing it, that the CRD received a grant to do the sidewalks and multi-use trail along Highway 14. So we didn't need to apply for that, but it's what we would want to see with that work happening. So maybe that's the additional work that, so they did write in support of that. And just our MLA has been advocating for those. So we did talk about some of the priorities. Councillor Lajeunesse, or gosh, MLA Lajeunesse, I need to really correct myself there, is well aware of schools and working to advance that. Our healthcare, community planning, Air Manor, he's aware of the growing wait list. I understand it's now turned from 2 to 3 years for space there, as well as he's always very supportive of our economic development initiatives. As we all know, that was something he was very keen on. He also will be meeting with our new MP. I've also sent out a request letter. He may get one sooner, and so it would, an ask to staff is to forward his staff the federal grant details that we have applied for, because he'll assist with advocacy on those particular grants that we did in early March. And as the new seniors advocate, I think that'll help with Air Manor and overall improvements around health. So more to come on that. And I think that's about it. The CRD board meeting is this Wednesday, and I look forward to that amenity being brought back to Sooke for young people. Skate park is very popular, and I know that the students will miss it, but they have been very involved, or the users, I should say, were consulted regularly, and they're really excited about the new park as it comes to life. So I'll leave it at that. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to find my way back. Yes, Councillor St. Pierre.
Sorry, just one more thing to add. I forgot about the land use committee, and I should never have done that. As it happens, we had a very good meeting. We covered some basic material, but the interesting thing was the report given by Mr. Marshall on the amenities policy, which we've been waiting for for a while, but we now have a clear policy that'll be coming forward to council. It focuses on cash in lieu with a very specific agenda so that people know exactly what they're doing. They won't have to worry about negotiations. There'll be clarity and certainty for the development community in terms of moving forward with projects. So that was excellent. And of course, council will be getting that back in the very near future. Our director of parking and planning has done a great job for us. Mr. Marshall, who is also directing parking of all things at the event.
Counselor Pearson?
I'm just wondering, in the process of having the celebration at Woodside Farm, is there a way for us to send a thank you letter to the owners of the property? Like I'm trying to add it.
Yes, that's in the works.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. Thank you for me,
absolutely.
Mayor Council.
Thank you for that. And I'll just add one piece also about Bill 15, because obviously you're aware that I wrote out a statement on it and I talked to our MLA about that, that because there was some criticism of me as the mayor criticizing the government. However, there was, and I referenced what set me off, and I shared the concern and they agreed with that. But this is where we speak truth to power. So if it were reversed and there was a different government that was doing something that was negatively impacting Sooke, would we not call it out? For example, when a former government had looked at the roundabout plans and was going to close off egress onto the highway, I pushed back against that, saying that would create gridlock if egress out of the Village Food Plaza had been closed off. That would not have been a good thing, would it not? And to have all the traffic be diverted around the back onto Logan's Lane and come out rather than onto the highway. So when you need to call it out, and as a result, the design that we wanted to see and we were consulted on is the one that was approved. So there is a time when it impacts local governments that you need to see how it resonates and then get clarity. So, and he was fine with that. So anyway, I'll leave it at that and now call for a motion, and I'm grateful just for the opportunity. He will be attending purchasers preview. So in case you know, the fine art show is coming. I am unable to make artist celebration. So our deputy mayor is going to let me know if they can attend on my behalf. Purchasers, you can, I'll let them know that. Purchasers preview, though, you do need to buy your own ticket and they sell out. So I just encourage you to attend. And I know that our MLAs are excited to attend and support that as well. Okay. On that, I will adjourn the meeting to closed, and that is that council close the meeting to the public pursuant to the following subsection of the community charter, the time being 8:18 p.m. 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. If the council considers that disclosure could reasonably expect it to harm the interests of the municipality. K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably expect it to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. And M, a matter that under another enactment is such the public may be excluded from the meeting. And thank you to those members of the public for being in here and participating today. So on that, I will look for a mover. Moved by Councillor McMath, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimous. Thank you.